Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Beth Williamson, and I work at Willard Library, and we're doing our first DIY program with you this evening. I hope that you'll really enjoy it. I end up doing a lot of things at home. I like to repurpose things. I like to breathe new life into something older that's maybe been misused or find a new use for it. We have a tiny little house, and the things I drag home, my poor husband, patience of a saint. But the reason that I love doing this sort of thing is when I grew up, we didn't have a lot of money. If something broke, we found a way to fix it or make the most of what we have. And that carried into my adult life too. And for a long time, I didn't know really how I wanted to decorate my home or what things I liked. I didn't have a style of my own. But in 2009, this book came out, Shabby Chic Interiors by Rachel Ashwell. And working at the library, I get first crack at all that stuff. And nobody had placed a hold on it. So I got to check it out, and I flipped through, and I just kind of fell in love. She brought back those old linens reminiscent of the things like my grandparents had. She had chipped up furniture that had been repainted and given a new life. So it kind of struck a chord with me, and I've been going with that ever since. Some examples are we have this giant buffet I dragged home. It had some water damage. I refer to it in my mind as Beth's Folly because it's still kind of a hot mess, but I'm working on it. We have an old trunk that was in Chad's great grandparents' house, and I brought it home. It's an end table, and it's actually my favorite piece in our house. It's got that history of having been well loved in their home, and his great grandpa actually used to clean his fish, so all the fish scales went in it. I know, kind of gross, but we cleaned it up, and it's actually so cool. So what we're going to do tonight is make use of an old window, because during our little COVID quarantine, we started ripping out old windows and replacing them in the hopes of getting siding, but we needed to replace all these yucky windows. So I looked around to see what could I do with those. And while my sweet husband was thinking we could put them at the curb, I had other ideas. So I got on my favorite site on Pinterest, and I had some ideas for how to make a shelf, but I wasn't 100%, well, Pinterest, so I found a little inspiration and made it and fell in love. So I hope you like it as much as I do. And I'm going to run through with you how to make it tonight. So give me just a sec. We'll get our other camera going, and I'll be right with you. Okay. All right. I mentioned I have a tiny house, right? I really do. This is our formal dining room. So to start with the window, we ripped these windows out, and this was the exterior side. The interior had never been painted. These windows are 60 to 60 plus years old. They've had a good life. They're solid and they're sturdy. They're just kind of ugly. So when I decided to do the shelf, I decided that I was going to do the exterior side because I like this roughed up, chipped paint kind of look, but I wanted to give it a little cleaner look. So I took some sandpaper, and you want to use a fine grit. The 220 is on here. The higher the number, the finer the grit. So that's what I decided to use. And you're just going to rough it up. There's no perfect way, and you see a lot of these little chips of paint will come off if you work on it. And you want them to come off because you don't want to be painting and have that stuff flake off. You could also do the other side if you chose, or if you wanted it white on the back side, and if you're worried it might show depending on where you plan to put your shelf. And that's just going to remove any little bit of finish that's left so that your paint will really adhere. So I did that. And then I primed my window. Now, I don't use super expensive stuff. Some people swear by this brand or that brand or have to have just the right thing. I really don't. I mean, I use an old fishing crate as an end table, so I don't have to have fancy, but I do like a good primer, and I've always used Kills. So I did a coat of primer, and then I put it outside so that my window could dry. And ran a few errands, did a little laundry, waited an hour, and then I just took some inexpensive paint. Now, this was an exterior side of the window. I used exterior paint because that's what I had. If you want to use an interior paint, knock yourself out. I also like semi-gloss. There are lots of different finishes you can use, but I prefer semi. It gives a little bit of a sheen and it wipes off really easy if you get anything spilled on it, flopped on it, whatever. So I painted it, and then I let it sit for about 4 hours, and then I painted a second coat. But in the meantime, oh wait, another alternative. If you don't want to do that, if you don't want to prime and paint, chalk paint. Again, super inexpensive. This is the Kills brand. It's probably one of the least expensive. There might be cheaper ones, but it's really easy to use. You paint it on, it dries in about an hour, and in 2 hours it'll take another coat. So did all that if you want it. But in between my two coats, I had measured my window, and I knew that it was 27 3/4 inches wide. And I went to Lowe's, one of my favorite little stores, and I picked out my piece of wood, and I got a longer board that was a 1x8. And the nice friends at Lowe's will cut these for you. It might be an option at Home Depot. You can tell where I spend a lot of my time, can't you? You might be able to do that at Home Depot. You might be able to do it at Menards. I don't know if that's a service they offer, but Lowe's definitely does. So I went there, I picked out my board, I made sure it was nice and straight, not too knotty, and had them cut it. Now they'll tell you they can't be exact. It's a rough cut. So when I said 27 3/4 inches, he said, I'll do the best I can. For me, the best you can is good enough. It wasn't a trim piece or anything super delicate, so more than happy. It was right on the money. So I got back, and my paint was dry, and I needed to get the paint off the window. So anytime I'm painting in the house, I always use frog tape because I want a nice crisp line. To do a window that has had caulking on it and whatever else glazing throughout the years to keep those airtight, it's not going to be a clean line. And so for that reason, I didn't bother with it. But if I do tape anything, I always use frog tape. So I took my handy little razor, and I came over here to my window, and I just scored it lightly down each side. You can hear it catching on all that old glazing. Oops. And then you get in here and get a start, and you scrape it all off. And it all comes off pretty easy. Miss a few spots, go back over it. Better move my hand. I don't trust myself not to cut myself. That wouldn't be good. We want it to be a DIY and a not what not to do. Okay, so I've gotten this off. And you know, I did just remember there was one thing I forgot to tell you. When you're doing all of that sanding and before you prime, you're going to want to take a damp cloth. And I use old stained t-shirts, and I just kind of cut them off under the arm and cut them up the side so I have nice rags to use around the house. And all I did was run some warm water in the sink, run it under that really quick and squeeze it out. It's not dripping, it's not super wet. And then I wiped down my window and proceeded with my primer. So we've got our paint off. We've got our board cut. Of course, I did prime and paint that while I was doing these other things. And now I have to decide where to place it. So when I'm looking at my window, I really, really liked this one, all this chippy paint. I think that's amazing. But I don't know if you can tell, some of these windows have just a slight angle to them, so your shelf is not going to work on that side. So my second choice was this one. It's nice and flat. So I'm going to fix my board there. But before I do that, I need to drill some pilot holes so that I can go ahead and put that in. I always use a board beneath whatever I'm drilling. And because I had measured this, I knew that this was 1 3/4 inches deep or wide. So I want to go in about 1 inch on my board. So I just quickly go down and mark the 1 inch mark all the way down. And because I can't draw a straight line to save my life, I keep a level around. And I line this up. And draw my line. Now to do your pilot holes, you can do it a couple different ways. You can old school hammer and a finishing nail. Did that for a long, long time. You can just make your husband do it. Mine's not always around when I want to do stuff because he works too. So I choose to drill a pilot hole. And we got this really nice screw gun recently. It's a drill and a screw gun, which I like so I don't have to have 15 different things. And it's super easy to use. You literally unscrew it. If I can get the case open, you grab your drill bit that all came with it. This is a little tiny one. It's just a 1/16, and look how easy this is to, and we're ready to go. So I'm just gonna drill in a couple spots down my board. And it's really important as you do it that you drill down. You'll actually feel it hit the board, but don't let go of the trigger. You want to hold that down as you pull it out or you'll break your blade. So easy, it's crazy. We have had drills that were not so good. And you'll notice this is not, Fixer Upper or This Old House or anything where they're so precise. I just don't have time or patience for that. That's just the way I am. So I have my pilot holes. They went through the back. And now I'm just going to set them up against the bottom of my window. Again, I'm not measuring. Then I take my drill and I put it at one of those holes on the bottom side. And I'm going to use my hip and my hand. And I'm going to drill into the window frame. All the way down. And even with my glasses, I can't hit the hole. So now we have that part done. That's the really hard part, and that's it. So I'm going to pop this back in because I hate it when I get cool stuff and then I can't keep it together and I'm looking all over the house for it. Don't even get me started. I can't even tell you how many tape measures we've purchased, and I've lost them all. So I'm ready to attach my board. Now, a professional would have an exact specific type of screw. Who would screw this screw, that screw? And you know what? I just love a drywall screw. They are big enough that they're going to get a good grip. They've got a big enough head. Your attachment always goes into them. I just think that they're handy for everything. So I go back to my board and I line up in those pilot holes where I've already drilled, and I'm going to hold my window on this side, and I'm going to screw that right into place. I'm going to actually slide this down so it's a little at the edge of my table so my drill doesn't hit the table too bad. Wonder if I'm running out of juice here. Nope. Okay. So now I would attach my corbels, but you can see there's this little trim piece here, and they're not going to sit flat. So while I was at Lowe's, I had scoped this out and I bought a piece of lattice. Most of us think of lattice as those sheets, right? It's a big sheet of lattice and we wrap it around our porch or front steps, make a compost bin. You could do all kinds of stuff with it. But when a piece breaks, you don't want to have to replace the entire frame. You can go buy these replacement boards. So that's what I did. And you can get them cut down at Lowe's too. So I had them cut down and I primed and painted them, and then I laid them like so. Give me just a minute. Let me grab my corbels. I think I left them over here. Well, shoot, in all my planning, I've misplaced them, so we're gonna just make it work. I'm gonna take these off and show you how you attach it. Oops. Okay. So ideally, you would not misplace your corbels. See what happens? So this is a corbel, super cute, and it kind of gives you a finished look here. And again, I don't always measure, I eyeball. So I'm gonna lay this like so, and that looks pretty good to me. So I'm gonna mark where I'm gonna have to attach them. And I'm gonna switch out real quick, and I'm gonna drill really shallow pilot holes. And only on that side, because once you stand it up, the weight of it, it'll drill right in. So then I'm gonna set this in here like here, like this. Grab a cute little screw, switch out my bits. And you want to screw it in, but not too tight, because it'll make your piece move. And that's why you don't do it too tight, so you can adjust as you go. Do that outside first. Oh, and there goes the table. I know it's a horrible noise. It's just because it's hitting that metal corbel. But we want to get them nice and tight. So let me pop this one off as well. Can't see. Where am I attached? Oh, it might be painted on there. There we go. So we got that off. Laid this one up here. And down like so. I'm gonna mark my holes again. And drill a little pilot hole. Oops. Sometimes if you slow down, it goes a little easier. Great, now we can stand her up. So now I'm going to stand it up. And it's going to stand there. And I need to attach it on the bottom. And I just like how easy it's working if I drill a little pilot hole again. So. And really, remember, they're short little pilot holes. You don't want to go through and ding up whatever's underneath that. Unless you're outside on a workbench. I have a crafty kind of table usually I use. That's in use with something else right now. So, you know, we're making do. Which is really what life is about. You make do with what you have. And kind of what I like to do just in general with the things that we own in our house. That one was maybe a little tight. Much better. Almost done, and I'm finally getting the hang of it today. And see how that tightened right down? That's what you want. You want to know that it's nice and secure in there. Now you have your shelf. Now, in all honesty, I don't mind the silver screws. Some people really don't like that. And if you really don't like it, what you can do is either come back behind it with your paint and paint it on really soft, because you don't want to fill in the holes in the screw head, because if you ever do decide to dismantle it or switch what you're doing, you wouldn't be able to, like, I wouldn't have been able to quick pull those off to make this one if I had done that. But another thing I like to do is take the screws that I know I'm going to use, and I drill them into that board, and then I just hit them with a little quick flick of spray paint. It dries in like 15-20 minutes, and you're good to go. So now you have your window. Let's take this guy down, and we'll pick these up later. Now you have your window, and you can decide, do you want it to sit on the tabletop? What do you want it to do? If you're going to hang it, I would suggest buying a picture hanging kit. It has all sorts of different ways to hang these little guys. I don't use those. I like these. And I usually use the bigger ones, which is why they're not in my kit right now. And I would put a number of those across, maybe 3 across the back. For that, you're going to want to measure, make sure everything's straight, because you don't want your shelf hanging crooked. But another thing I'm super fond of doing is when you buy these picture hanging kits, you will get this wire all wound up and these different attachments. And I like to do 2 strands, and you just twist it back on itself. And then you would affix it to the back of your shelf. And you want to make sure the level of it is wherever you need this string to fit in the frame. So I would do it about here. Now, I personally don't mind if I see that wire through my window. Some people do. And if you really don't like that, be precise in measuring and use those little teeth to hang it. So now you've got your shelf and your cute little thing, and you can put together a nice little vignette. Of course, you would dust it off, you would Windex your window, but then you can play with it and grab some tchotch around your house. Just like I had my sweet kiddos on there with the W for my last name and my babies. Aren't they so cute? But they're not your babies, so you probably don't want them. If you have a Southwesty vibe going on, you could grab some stuff and add to that. Get those colors. I do like the brass and the gold tones. That's really popular. But I actually think that you need a little height with this. So this was my favorite. I played with this last night. Let me bring these over. And I'm trying not to break them. This was my favorite. And I just think that that is so cute. And these little guys have mirrors in them, so they'll reflect the sun. So if you have a window that the sun's coming through, it just pops that around. If you have cats, that will drive them crazy, but that might be fun to watch too. So that's it, folks. We did a DIY window and made it into a shelf. I hope you enjoyed the program. I hope it was fun for you. I hope it gave you some ideas. And the main thing is just do what feels right to you. Like, this appeals to me. If it doesn't appeal to you, that is a-okay. Go out and find your happy and then recreate your happy. But I can't tell you how much happiness I get from looking around my home and working on my home and making it a home. It's not just a place we live, it's where I choose to spend most of my time. I'd actually never leave if I could figure out a way to get paid and still work with all of you. So I'm going to bop over to my laptop, see if anyone had any questions, and if not, have a good night, and I hope to see you next week. We're going to make a moisturizing body cream. I have a lot of allergies, and sometimes the products I find in stores have some of those allergens in them. You'd be amazed at all the things that people react to. And I also have eczema, and I also have rosacea. So I have to be super careful about what I put on me, and even sometimes things I'll put on my arms or my legs won't do well on my face. So I found, after looking at many different recipes on Pinterest, different ideas, and I kind of made my own. And so I call it body butter. You can call it moisturizing cream, but we'll be doing that next week. So I'm going to bop over here. And go ahead and just shut that off if you want. The whole phone, go ahead. Thanks. So let's see. Let's look for comments. Hi, Beth. Hi, guys. Oh, I'm glad you guys are loving the DIY. It is so doable. Carla, anyone can do this. And if I can do it, anyone can do it. Don't be too scared to try it. And you know what? If it doesn't turn out like you like it, no one knows but you. But listen, girl, if you need help, you call me. You know where to find me. I'm always at the library, and I can help you with this. Oh, Christine, you saw old windows on the curb. Oh, you should have grabbed them. You know, if my sweet Chad would let me, I would gather them all up. I really want to make a greenhouse. Wouldn't that be awesome? Make my own greenhouse, get my own plants started. And if I got really crazy, I could do a she shed, but I don't think he's going to let me do that. We just don't have the room. So let me see. The cost, that was a really great idea and a good question, Wanda. Thank you. You know, the windows were free. Or you could say the windows cost a lot because I had to replace them. But no, the windows were totally free. The corbels I bought at Hobby Lobby, and I want to say they were about $4 a piece, but I don't pay full price for anything if I can get it on sale. So I used one of their coupons. And because I'm super cheap, I went back the next day and I used another coupon. So it was really inexpensive. The whole thing was less than $50 if I had had to buy everything, like the paint, the primer, the little scraper. I kind of priced it out and did a cart, so it would have been under $50. But that chalk paint is worth its weight in gold because it's like one-stop shopping. So I would definitely suggest that. Really like this. Oh, I wish you'd known about it. She says she really likes it. She wished she'd known about it before they got new windows in the late fall. I wish you had too. Man, what a bummer. And okay, Christine, when I tell Chad I want that greenhouse, you're going to help me with that, right? Okay. Well, I hope you enjoyed the program, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. And you know, if DIY stuff at home for the home isn't your thing, if you want to buy a cute shelf at Michael's or Hobby Lobby or Vintage Revivals down on Dickman Road where I find lots of cool stuff, you know, go ahead and do that. But we can make other products for home that are so nice, so inexpensive, and so good for you. And yeah, my girl Alicia and I, we are always painting stuff and sending each other pics. And she agrees chalk paint is a huge time saver. And then I have done stuff and not put any finish on it. Some people like the wax. I feel for me, it attracts dust. So I don't do that. But I did chalk paint the wainscoting in our bathroom. I know it's crazy, but we needed to redo drywall and I didn't want to do that. So we put wainscoting up and then I chalk painted it black. I know, but bear with me. It's actually super cool and everyone who sees it says it looks so nice. So that's it for me. That was DIY with Beth. Huge shout out to my husband who dealt with my panic attacks, that this program would not do well and that I would be terrible, and was also my cameraman because I couldn't have done it without some help. So you guys have a great night. I hope to see you here next week. And if not, just look around your house. See what you're not super happy with. Consider it broken, because if it's broken, it doesn't matter what you do to it. It'll be an improvement. All right, take care. Thank you.